some of the professionals we have today, they've had to learn their way through the field. So the education system that we have, not only in Nigeria, for example, but all over the world, hasn't prepared a lot of people for the role.
You have to communicate effectively, and you have to put yourself in the shoes of the client.
Now, you can say that many of the engineers of the present age are managers' material.
Landscape, the cybersecurity landscape of today, it has changed very diversely.
But for an engineer, you just want to deploy. You want to deploy the solution. Is it working? Is it off? Is it done?
There should be no excuse for skill gap. I'm not skilled enough. I don't have the requisite knowledge. I don't think I'm fit for this job. No. What you just need to bring to bring on board is just one, your willingness to learn, and also your passion to actually want to make changes.
We're discussing tomorrow's cybersecurity architect and InfoSec leaders at the MSS Nigeria. We are very pleased to welcome Gideon, Oluwatobi, Aniechi, Security Engineer, Ethnos IT Solutions, Aliyu-Haruna Saibu, Network Engineer, Mary Omobayode, Adesanya, Information Security Engineer, InfoPrive, Semasa A, Ajose, Information Security Analyst, Bolaji Ladokun, Lead SOC Engineer, Verizon, and Assam Victor-Ifeanyi, Security Engineer at CyberSOC Africa. What a great panel. What a lovely grouping. It's great to have you on. Thanks for everyone who's stayed for this panel, especially. And if we can start our videos, that would be amazing. Now I know at least one of you has been on one of our panels before, so this is good. And we've had some nice pre-calls. We're talking about the future security architect. Let's start with you, Bolaji, and I'll work my way around on my screen. Tell us about today's architect, because for me, this is a controversial topic in itself. There's a blurred line between engineer and architect. Before we look at the future, what about today?
Thank you very much for the invitation. Yes, just to kick it off, today's architect, I will consider it as a concoction of different things. So because the field is really, really young, I would say, so which means some of the professionals we have today, they've had to learn their way through the field. So the education system that we have, not only in Nigeria, for example, but all over the world, hasn't prepared a lot of people for the role. So what they've done over the years is to basically receive some of the artifacts or some of the engagements they have in their everyday life, and basically try to transform them and try to start working with them, basically. So the architect of today basically have a lot of different responsibilities, and that varies from companies to companies as well. So from learning some part of web security or network security, physical security, like we've seen, and trying to come up with innovative solution to address the problem they are trying to solve in different enterprises. So that's what we have today in a nutshell.
Okay, and that paints a lovely picture. Let's go across to Mary. Mary, welcome. We're thinking of the future architect, but this architect definition is still a problematic one, isn't it? Because what is the current architect doing, and does it exist? Because have you ever met a pure play security architect that is not an engineer? How can we define that, Mary?
Okay, so first I'll say thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Also, it's common to mistake an architect for an engineer, because in today's world, where you are expected to do everything from the architect to the engineer to the developers, you just want you to do everything. So, but it's quite easy because the architect role is kind of tilted towards the management role. Yeah, because it's kind of tilted towards the management role, because what the architect does is that they decide how the security is done, right? While the engineers just implement. So as an architect, you're not expected to go to the field to now start deploying, configuring, and all that. So what you have to do is get a design, come up with a strategy. This is what we should do. This is how we should do it. Meanwhile, when an architect is carrying out their own function, you're expected to keep in mind the standard the PCI standard, ISO standard, NDPR standard, SOC 2 standard. You have to keep it in mind. But for an engineer, you just want to deploy. You want to deploy the solution. Is it working? Is it up? Is it done? That's how to differentiate it. So basically, the architect is kind of treated towards the management role, while the engineer is treated towards implementing, configuring, and ensuring that everything is in place.
And that's an interesting definition, because even though we want our engineers to get working on things, get into the meat of things, we're saying things about our engineers that I don't like engineers need business skills, engineers need communication skills. I don't think they're lacking it, but we'll get onto that. Gideon, welcome. What have you thought of the day so far, and how is that reflected on where this panel can go? Because I want to look at the future engineer and the future architect, and we've already heard that there might be a clear distinction. One is operational, one is management. What are your thoughts, Gideon?
Okay, yeah. First of all, I didn't quite get the question, so please can you just take it again?
Is today's architect ostensibly management material, and today's engineer is a worker, or is it more complex than that? Maybe that's a good way of asking the question.
Okay, yeah, sure. There's a better way to act. All right. So first, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be on this panel, and then thanks to the team and everyone. So yeah, to answer the question, so we're talking about the architects, and then we're talking about the engineers, we're talking about the managers as well. So if you look at the three different roles, right, they are quite interrelated, especially for the architect, because a cybersecurity architect is closer to the management, because they interpret the management plans or policies or business, what drives the business to the engineers, and then they create like a form of orchestration where the business is going to dwell on. Now you can say that many of the engineers of the present age are close to being or are managers material, and one of the reasons for that is because now there are a lot of certifications that you see a lot of security engineers have these days. You can see a regular security engineer has something like a CISM or a CISSP, or several other certifications that many cybersecurity architects and engineers are having these days, which are also quite similar to what managers also have to be able to run their roles. And in contrast to that, there are certain certifications and certain roles that are given to engineers these days, where you have to manage a vendor or manage a customer on your own, and then you have to ensure that you deliver everything that is required. This is just like management, right? So management assigns you to manage a customer, and then you do that efficiently, come back with results. Simply means that when you have a larger, you have more people under you, you can delegate roles, you can make business work, right? So I can say that the present age engineers, although you may not say they're exactly managers, but they're closer to being, and then with a little more skill, a little more hand holding, and some parts at the right place, more engineers managers are likely to come out. Yeah, sure.
And that's important, is it? Because there's lots of people that ask engineers for lots of things. Lots of salespeople suddenly rush down to the engineers and say, "Oh, I've promised this thing. Can you make it happen?" And the poor engineers left. No, it's you've promised things that don't exist. Assam, let's come to you. I think this is an interesting question. Maybe 20 years ago, we could have said that someone working in not DevSecOps, because that's not quite 20 years ago, but maybe someone that went to Black Hat or DEF CON would be in their basement, and they wouldn't talk to other people, and maybe they wouldn't have communication skills. But people are still suggesting this of today's engineer, and I don't think it's true. I think today's engineer has great communication skills. But I'd be interested in your thoughts, Assam. What's the real story?
Oh, okay. You can hear me, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, cool. Good day, everyone. Thank you for having me in this session. So basically, communication is important, whether you like it or not. Communication is important, especially when you have to deal with clients. You have to troubleshoot. Now, troubleshooting is also, let's say it's some form of, yes, it's fixing the problem. But in order for you to fix the problem, you have to communicate effectively with the client so they understand what you're doing. Because yes, the client doesn't, you are the engineer, you know the technical, you have the technical know-how, but they don't understand. So communication, yes, is important. You can't just be, like you said, 20 years ago, like in a basement and just slamming away on computers. You have to effectively communicate. And that also is also tied to some form of emotional intelligence, which is also important, because you need to understand that when you're writing emails, you're sending out emails, you're sending out maybe POCs, you have to communicate effectively, and you have to put yourself in the shoes of the client when interpreting. You're trying to interpret what you want them to get, because stakeholders don't understand the technical grammar. So we have to interpret it, make it easy for them to digest and understand. So when we ask questions, they can help us. So we don't spend so much time back and forth trying to understand the slight situation that was just, let's say, like this size, but because we're using the technical grammar, we are not communicating effectively, it becomes an normal situation. So that's just basically, I think communication is definitely important in this era of security engineering.
And I particularly asked that of you because I know that you have a non-script kiddie type background. I just to dwell on you for now, Assam, you're a great example of how people can come in from other areas. What was your background?
Okay, so I read linguistics and communication. I know, shocker. I read linguistics and communication. I did customer service for about 10 years before I decided to switch to cybersecurity. And in cybersecurity, I did analysis for a bit before I went into security engineering. So yeah, I don't have a script kiddie background.
I like it. So, all right, let's develop that then. Welcome, Aliyu. Great to see you. We've looked at communication skills. We looked at business skills. And we've looked at people who've had a previous career. What do you think about that? Do you think we should encourage that? Because we've heard before that there might be a skills gap, might be a talent gap. Is it easy to make that jump, as Assam has done, or do you think we should be getting people excited earlier on?
Yeah, so thank you for the audience. So for me, in terms of acquisition and having a skill gap in this the era of technology advancement, left for me, yes, we have a whole lot of resources available in this, at least since, if we look at that, since 2000, when YouTube has actually been, been in existence, it has made a whole lot of learning. There are a whole lot of resources on YouTube where people can learn about tech, even people who are not even tech inclined, people who are in the arts, people who are in the management science, even other people who are not into information technology, but probably they study a STEM course. You see, a whole lot of people are coming into information technology, and basically, it comes with, you have to come with the spirit to, you have that passion to learn. You have to be dedicated. You have to put in a whole lot. You have to be open to challenges, open to learn, open. Always any resource you come across, you could just go on Google. If you want to be probably a security architect, you could just start from there. Just a simple link you could just click might just give you, it's going to be a scratch on the surface of the knowledge, but it will at least give you an idea of what you're going to learn, or it can even direct you to further resources that might actually help you in your journey. So I think in this era and time, there should be no excuse for skill gap. I'm not skilled enough. I don't have the requisite knowledge. I don't think I'm fit for this job. No, What you just need to bring to the, bring on board is just one, your willingness to learn, and also your passion to actually want to make changes, build resilient and secure systems. You have that passion to make customers happy, deliver solutions that are not just only effective but also efficient, and so on. So the drive actually has to come from you. So that's just it.
Yeah, that's important, isn't it? That internal drive and not this approach of, oh, there's no skills, so we need AI, and AI is going to take away all the jobs. And it's got to come from inside. Let's again develop that. It's become a catchphrase of mine today. I'm not sure where I'm keep on saying that, but let's develop that. Semasa, what do you think? Now, Semasa, you very kindly joined us on an event in December when we used an analogy of the circus to look at the enterprise circus and the architect of tomorrow. What are your thoughts on how today has been and what we should expect from tomorrow's architect leader?
Okay. Hi, Philem. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. It's very nice being on this call again. Thank you, all my panelists. Thank you, everyone listening. Throughout today, in all of the sessions that I've been in, I've heard many people talk about today's engineers, what is required of them, the kind of things they need, the kind of challenges they face. I feel for tomorrow's engineers, the way the cybersecurity landscape is changing is very rapid. There are so many new things, or so many things that weren't happening maybe 10 years ago that is actually happening now. You can see so many different, there's people from various backgrounds coming into cybersecurity, coming into information security. Meanwhile, previously, you had to maybe have a background in computer science or engineering or that sort. I think for tomorrow's engineer, we'll be seeing a lot more diverse people coming into security, coming into the cybersecurity. And with the way, I'll just add this, with the way certifications are going now, a lot of I don't want to say it's easy, but once you can get certified, like there are so many certifications out there, be it the cloud security, the AWS, GCP, and the rest. There are so many out there that like help people from diverse background, as long as they are willing, actually, as long as they are willing to learn, help people from diverse background come into security. With the way certifications are now, it's the engineer of the future or the engineers of tomorrow. They'll be from diverse background, not necessarily one computer engineering or science or programming background.
Okay, and that's important, isn't it? Because that allows people to make a segue, and it is often thought, well, you need to have been programming since you're 2 years old and so on, and it's not the case, right? But Bolaji, then this question of certification, what a hot topic. I like this because there are tons of certifications around, and every day in the popular press or the news, it says, don't do this one, do this one, or this certification body is discriminating, so let's ignore them. This one is inclusive, so let's look at them. There's stories every day about different certifications. What is today's architect or junior engineer to make of all of this? How can they make a good selection, Bolaji?
Okay, how can they make a good selection? First, I think that could be a very easy selection to make. Is how are you able to learn the most? So which one basically give you the opportunity to learn as much as possible? Because what you want to offer to a potential company is some sort of solution. So you want to be a solution giver. You want to solve some problems. So which certification is going to give you the learning experience that you actually need? So I'm going to look at this a little bit from two perspectives. One from the employer's perspective and the employee's perspective as well, or the potential employee now. From the employer perspective, you have a lot of applications coming in. So you have tons of applications, and you need to find a way to basically filter out this application. You have 2 roles, but you have 500 applications or 1,000 applications, for example. So one of the things that we've not done in the field over the years is to include other people from different parts of the organization, HR recruiters, to basically educate them on what is necessary to fulfill this role, or to be able to succeed in this role. So the simple solution for them is to basically make certifications really, really important. So it's just like a gate to basically say, if you don't have this, then you need to go away, basically. So one of the things, or the responsibility for corporate organizations, or for every one of us, is to basically be inclusive with other departments. So we've spoken so much about communication. So that's one part. But for a potential employee, what you need to do as much as possible is to learn as much as possible. Some people will tell you, don't do certifications, or you don't need a degree. I would tell you they are all correct, right? And they are all wrong at the same time. So you need to make sure that you basically pick what works for you. If you want to work in an organization that basically needs some sort of certifications, maybe it's probably better for you to do it as well, to get those certifications. Because what that proves to the employer is that you have some basic knowledge. And if you're able to get this knowledge without certification, which is very good as well for you as well. So if you have a young blood trying to get into the industry, and you have all this information, people usually tend to give you their personal experiences, how they managed to get into the field. Okay, I did this for 20 years and I was able to get into the field without a certification or something like that. That's the part that works for them. It may not necessarily work for you. The landscape you have, the peculiarity of the challenges we are facing now might be different for you, for example. So there are a lot of people that are security native, they are computer native, but it doesn't mean that you can't have your own niche. So if you are coming from different field, if you have some other background, communication skills, linguistics, if you are coming from the health field, for example, you can bring all of these skill sets together with you, and they are very, very much useful in the industry. But most importantly, get the knowledge and be able to sell yourself. That's what I would say.
And that selling yourself is really important. Of course, there is the possibility that someone on paper has all these wonderful certifications and they can't remember what they did. But anyway, that brings us to this next question. And Ikem Uche has very kindly brought it out. So let me put this to you, Mary. What about hands-on experience of learning? What about real life scenario training? Can that be measured? Is that, I mean, of course it's useful. You do it, but then what for the engineer? What are your thoughts, Mary?
Okay, so good. For real life experience, you can't take that out, right? So because for me, I see certification as a supplement to experience. Certification is not a replacement to experience, right? So hands-on experience is very important, because the truth is what you read by the book most times it's not always like A, B, C, D as you see it on the book. When it comes to real life experience, it's different, right? So certification is good, yeah, but hands-on experience is best. Because with hands-on experience, you'll be able to speak to that paper you're carrying, right? You'll be able to speak to it. A lot of people have a lot of certifications now. If you ask them a simple thing, they'll be like, because they don't have the experience. But from experience, if it's something you have been doing, trust me, there's nothing they will ask you from paper or whatever. You will finish it, right? So, and that is one thing I always tell my mentees. Like, if you are coming into cybersecurity, you've not gotten an Intel placement yet, try to learn on a site that gives you access to labs. Right? Because not everybody will be lucky to come into cybersecurity and get an internship placement. So you could start with a lab. That's why there are virtualization, open sources everywhere. So let's not take out the hands-on experience from it. Hands-on experience could be gotten, but you don't have to get it from a a live environment. Let me just use that one. You don't have to go from a live environment. You can get it from a text environment using your lab. So you can take out the hands-on experience from it, from certification. Consider is just one thing. It's not a replacement.
And you bring up the lab, and lots of people set up cyber labs all over the place and cyber ranges, and they're really valuable because there are some things you really don't want in, and as Ikem says, cyber simulators, because there's something you really don't want in certificate form. I don't know. I've got a master's degree in SAS hardening. What? Like, why? Like, or I'm doing my PhD in I don't know, CSV file vulnerabilities. Oh, okay, actually, maybe that would be a good PhD, right? I don't know. But I'm just making these things up. Aliyu, let's then link training with recruitment, because people want to be sifted out, and some people are using automated CV sifters, which has its own bias problems. Some people are using recruiters, and then you have a problem that a recruiter one day is recruiting for a chef, and the next day they're recruiting for a pen tester. And how do they maintain any knowledge of what's going on unless they literally go down the list of certifications and go, right, Aliyu has this certificate, I'm going to try and put them forward. How can we balance that with people who actually know what they're doing?
Okay. I'll actually like this question because this is very much in play in our present day recruitment processes. We find a whole lot of people in human resources who don't even really know much about the role or probably the technical role they're about to recruit for. They just recruit based on maybe keywords from your resume, and they invite you for interviews. Even when you try to explain some situations to them and some tech terminologies and so on, some experiences you've had, they might not really be able to connect with you. So for me, the solution here is most of this in such recruitments, they should be actually they could either adopt a kind of a departmental kind of recruitment, as well as having the HR screening that by the side, or they have a panel kind of recruitment where an expert for that role they actually to recruit for. That's the technical person or the team lead, or probably could be the CTO, the chief technology officer. They get to ask you questions. An expert gets to ask a question. Somebody that has there's an expert in that area. And also, certifications cannot really be thrown, cannot be discarded just like that, because for one, the fact that you have a certification, you've written an exam and you passed, shows that to an extent you've put in some effort and you have at least some knowledge of what's that particular area and field. Now, where the icing on the cake comes in is if that certification now comes with hands-on experience. That's very, very, very key, because at that point in time, you are not just only having the knowledge, you've also had life kind of hands-on experience in different scenarios. Because while studying for your certification, there are a whole lot of critical scenarios and incidences that will take place that you will never see in any documentation of such products or such solutions. You will find them. You find those solutions to those problems either through your own research or through discussion groups, or still you learn from people within your workplace who have much more experience and knowledge than you do, people you are learning from, like mentors and the rest. So, both need to be, taken into consideration, both certification and also hands-on experience. And also these two has to be brought together, integrated during the recruitment process. But for me, I place much more premium on hands-on experience than that of just basing it only on certificate. If I'm interviewing somebody who on a particular area and he has an hands-on experience, and I put him through some text, give him some just basic questions to answer, give him some basic scenarios, hand him over probably the infrastructure, whatever it is, and just say, you can log in into this, do this, do this. If he's able to do that, yes, we can take him in and tell him, okay, proceed on and so certification pathway, and we guide him. I think that's, we should give, even without the certifications, we can give people a chance as long as they have some hands-on experience.
And that giving them a chance, I think, is what we all know in our hearts that is a good idea. And certifications that have practical experience, or it came in the audience says skill matching using scenario, perfect. But let me put this to Assam. How many recruiters out there have the capability to assess your specialism? Let's look at it. What is a recruiter? They are someone that puts themselves between you and an employer. It's a protection racket. I know that's a bit extreme as an analogy, but they're getting in the way, or they're facilitating. So how can we have any recruiters out there that have enough technical know-how to properly assess a candidate, a junior engineer, Assam? What can we do without certifications?
Okay. Now, like what he said, it's a bit, and the example you cited where you said a chef. Let's interview someone today, a recruiter interviewed a chef today, and tomorrow he's trying to interview a pen tester. Of course, he needs to balance out what So for me, I think we should get to the point where I won't say the recruiters have to go through the list of certifications, because most times they really don't know what certification is what. For example, let me paint a picture. Okay, so I handle some solutions that are in the cloud, use AWS, and I don't have any certification, or I didn't have any certification on AWS. I needed to understand better my environment. So what did I do? I decided to take the cloud practitioner for AWS, so I'll learn better. Yes, I know it's a certification, yes, a certificate, but at the same time, like what Bolaji also said, it will help, no, it wasn't Bolaji, the other guy, sorry. It will help you, it will push you to learn. So having to read for that certification pushed me to learn more about the solution I was dealing with. Now I know better. So if recruiters are sensitized, or basically, let me say sensitized, if we can get recruiters with technical background, that could also help. So if you have, I know we've had things like there are non-technical cybersecurity roles. That can be considered like a non-technical role, which is recruitment. Like a technical recruiter is a non-technical role. So this person knows what they're looking for. You're not just reading through you have like a breakdown. You have an A certification, B, C, and you're just reading and looking, using that as a checklist. You might get it wrong. Someone might just have the certification and not have the knowledge. So if the technical recruiter has some background in IT, for example, I'm just saying, it would help a really great deal, because then they know what they're looking for. So even if they're standing between the candidate and the employees, they're the bridge between the company and whoever wants to get the job. Because they're that bridge, they can easily make the bridge smooth, make the transition easy, both for the company recruiting and for the employer, or for the candidate trying to get the job. So I think that would go a long way, getting recruiters who have technical background so they understand better what they're looking for, rather than just going through the checklist and just checking people out based on certifications. That
is great. I wish they all did, and hopefully in future they will. And in the audience, I think people have been agreeing with what you said and what Aliyu said. Christopher says you get the knowledge before the certifications. Brian, hi Brian, says the challenge we see is that there is a lot of turnover of people who only get certification without experience, but it is difficult to get practical experience in the university or technical program. Do you have a take on the chance? Do you take a chance on several employees before you find the candidate that will continue in the company? Let's use that as our question. Then I'll give it to Gideon. What do you think? Is it literally burn and churn, hire fast, fire quick, or fire slow, or high? I don't know. Is that a good approach? Just find out, hire them and find out, Gideon.
Okay, so I'm not sure I got the question correctly.
should we, instead of taking our time thinking, oh, who should we hire? Will there be a good fit, a best fit, a medium fit, a perfect fit? Should we just hire loads of people and see who's got the skills? Because that way we'll find out.
Okay, so really, that's very risky, especially in a case when you don't have a lot of time, and you want to meet your deadline. You have a project that you need people to work on immediately. So you can be doing that try and error kind of format of employing people. Yeah. So I think what the other panelists have said makes a lot of sense, where you talk about, especially when the last presenter mentioned that we should have technical. Say you are recruiting someone for a technical role, you should have a technical recruiter, someone that has the understanding of the role, understand the job, understand what is required. Really, I don't need to even have a 30 minutes conversation with someone to know that they're knowledgeable about something. So say we start a conversation about application security, I can just basically ask you 2 or 3 questions on application security, and I can tell that, oh, you either know this stuff or you don't, right? So it is important that we have the people that understand the role or the requirements of the role when we're trying to recruit. And then for the future of the cyber security, and then the future of the architects of the future, right? It is really important. It's not just they've mentioned quite a lot of things, certifications, trainings, and on, but there's something I think which is very important. It's the basic understanding of this technology, because these days a lot of things are happening. People are learning really fast. There are a lot of certifications, even some little certifications that are just trying to brush you up on a few things. But then because of the extent of knowledge that is out there on YouTube and every other platform, you can just go ahead and start learning and think you know something, whereby what really matters at the end of the day are the little things, the basic, like how many present day cybersecurity engineer can do PowerShell, like can create scripts by themselves to perform certain option activities on Linux, on Windows. Things like that are very granular, and these are the important things, because this is what ransomware use, for example. These are the things that happens in the background that we are actually trying to secure against. So it is really important that we have this comprehensive understanding of the basics, and then as we now grow from the basics, move into higher level of knowledge by certifications, by hand holding. And then when it comes to recruitment, we should ensure to have guys who understand the role and the requirements, which is going to be, the icing on the cake for employing cybersecurity architects. Yeah.
And Gideon, you've painted a picture of a lot of environments that you can quickly tell, you can smell. Does this person pass the smell test almost? Are they working in it day in, day out? And you mentioned AppSec. Well, let me use that then, and I'll give Semasa this. Semasa, AppSec, right? Imagine a recruiter said, I want some, it's like saying I want 20 years Kubernetes experience, but AppSec is a bit more of a practical problem. People who are CISOs now are, believe it or not, a little bit intimidated by people who have got AppSec experience. At least that's what I've been finding. What do you think that today's engineer has as standard skill set that people would be surprised about? What is it that is sort of coming down the pipeline, so to speak, that will create this architect of the future?
Okay. So using AppSec as an example now, like it's a very critical part of cybersecurity, because most businesses now, they use one sort of application or the other, and securing the application, because in the end it comes in to communicate with their internal devices or their internal servers and the rest. So I think for today's engineers, there are so many things that people have, or engineers, young technology experts now have nowadays, that prior it was seen as something maybe someone that has 20 years experience that before you can get that certification or that level of knowledge. So let's say, for example, if I'll use maybe certification, for example, let me just use maybe the CISSP. That was a certification prior. It's seen that, okay, you have to have maybe 10, 15 years experience in information technology and hands-on experience in certain things before you can delve into that certification. But nowadays, you see a lot of young people, a lot of young engineers, they actually get that certification. You would think it's maybe probably it was easy to do or something, but when you try to find out the processes of how they did it, yeah, it's very alarming. An exam for over 4 hours, it's not something that's just easy like that. So there are so many things like the landscape, the cybersecurity landscape of today, it has changed very diversely. Like a lot of more people are involving technological aspects into their businesses, into their applications, into what they use in their daily lives. Like the banks now, they have internet banking, their mobile app, and the rest. Even the USSD code, that's the numbers that you type, it has some sort of underlying technological backing that actually makes it work. So all of those things bring in new challenges, and new people have to take up that task of learning those skills that are necessary to actually secure those applications. And those new people are majorly the young upcoming engineers.
And that is our goal for this panel, because we're trying to find the engineer of the future, because we're wondering about the makeup of the MSS of the future, or the internal IT department, the internal InfoSec, the internal SOC, the managed SOC, the external SOC. That's the kind of flavor we're trying to bring. And, we do ask these questions with our MSS Denver or MSS Amsterdam or MSS Australia. And, we're trying to find synergy across geographies as well. I'll tell you what, Bolaji, I know we're sort of really over time, but Bolaji, where can we go with this next time? Should we do another event such as this, maybe a longer one with more sessions? I know this is just a couple of hours, but where could we go for another event on this topic, Bolaji?
Yeah, definitely. I think we can stay on the topic, definitely, because I think a lot of people are really interested in getting into the field, or even upskilling as well. So I think it's something we should really, really consider on how to basically keep abreast of new technologies, and what is the best way to learn, and even to get hired or keep doing your job. So I think that's very important. And also, I think if you look in the chat as well, there are a lot of other questions as well, like the challenges when you train people and keeping them in the team, for example. So these are some of the items we can look into. For example, any business know the risk of losing its employee, right? And this is part of your KPI. You need to be aware of the risk that is associated with when you train people and they have to leave. And how do you keep people, how do you keep the company competitive, and how do you also keep people motivated as well? So it's a risk, and different companies, even big companies, sometimes they have retention period of engineers of less than 2 years, for example. So it's a global problem, or a global challenge, so to speak. So I think we can stay on this type of topic for the future as well, to basically look, even from the corporate security part as well, on how you can keep people motivated and how you can hire people correctly, and what the companies are doing to even train people that even have they don't have any experience, so to speak. So yeah. Very
good. Great sentiments. I thought I would just ask that additional question. I know, because we're running over, I thought let's tee us up for another session with question like that. So Aliyu, Assam, Bolaji, Gideon, Mary, and Semasa, thank you for being such great panelists. I hope we tried something slightly different with today's session, and I've really enjoyed it. So please join me and by giving them a big virtual round of applause.